Oh, well, let's just go to the brutal reality. In Britain and Israel, we've seen as they have opened up, they've seen a spike in case numbers. That's to be expected, but also hospitalisations of the unvaccinated have happened. Even if the numbers increase, even if you're under pressure from people catastrophising things in the media, are you promising no more statewide lockdowns once you open up at 70%?
Well, it was deliberate that earlier this week we put out our plan in relation to surge capacity in our hospital system. And we've got surge capacity up to 1,550 ICU beds. At the moment, we've got under 200 people in ICU that's COVID related. On our modelling, we reach an additional 540 patients under COVID and another 400 due to normal ICU practice that happens in the health system. So about 1,000 people at its peak. That's what we've modelled, and we're comfortable with that. We know that'll put stress on the system, and we know that'll put stress on our health workers, but we know we can do it, and that's what we've modelled. And we know vaccination rates will continue to rise. And we know with vaccination, yes, infections will rise, but about hospitalisation, those that go into ICU, those that go into on ventilators, and even death, those numbers will be managed. And look, it's hard to have that conversation because people will die, and they are dying at the moment. But we did model against what was happening in the UK, Canada, Singapore. We've looked at data from all over the world. This is the plan that I believe does it in a safe, cautious way, and that allows Australia to regain some of the control that the pandemic's taken away from all of us.
So no lockdowns once you get to 70% double jabbed and are open?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've said today is our intention of going cautious and slowly, and I say we met with industry and they've absolutely embraced it because it gives hope. But in the plan, what it talks about, that if we have an issue, we have an outbreak, we'll look at it and looking at suppression measures at a very localised level. It could be a changing arrangement for a particular postcode, for a business, for a sector type. We're promising no statewide lockdown. But I can't also predict, I don't have a crystal ball, is there another variant? Is there something more to come from COVID that's beyond Delta?
No,
we don't know
that's
that.
Understandable. That's understandable.
Yeah.
Give me a sense, take me down to the level of a business, right? Now, if they can't open unless all their staff are vaccinated, I know that they can police the customers that can come in, they can require people to show their digital passport or whatever. But what happens if you've got a business where only half of your staff are vaccinated? We know you can't sack your staff, presumably, but you want to open as a proprietor. What do you do in that instance? What can happen?
Well, look, I know that this is a partnership with business and they're going to have to make some tough decisions, no different to the decisions that we've made already in New South Wales with the returning of schools on the 25th of November. What we've said is our teachers must be vaccinated. Our staff and teachers in school environment must be vaccinated. And what the government has said and what the minister has said, those that don't get vaccinated won't be teaching in our schools. Now, for a business, it is hard. The staff are valuable. They are the greatest asset for any small business. I was in business for a long time. I get that. But this is no different to maybe my career before this as a chippy. When I went to site, you had to have PPE equipment. And if you didn't have that PPE equipment, you were unavailable to work. So the message to our businesses is to talk to their staff to get vaccinated because that is going to be part of the requirement. Now, the truth here is at 70%, it's a level of freedom. Maybe some businesses won't take that up. Maybe individuals won't take that up. But the reality is there will be a point in time at 80, 85% possibly that we will then expand on those freedoms even for the unvaccinated. But the pressure point's got to be there. And really the message to business is partner with us. Your staff are valuable. Talk to them. Vaccination is the key for success. So that, to your point earlier, that we never lock down again. And that's the key to this. Mm.
You referenced National Cabinet before. I think one of the things that has horrified Australians is the lack of compassion. As some premiers have shown people who need to move around the country. We are a country after all, we're not just a collection of states. I don't know how we get to a situation when you look at your pathway to open up and not a similar pathway anywhere else in the country. How do we get to a situation where people in Sydney are likely to be able to fly to Britain before they can fly to Brisbane? You call a spade a shovel. You've got to be disappointed at how the politicking, particularly this year of the pandemic, has played out state against state.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the politics has become ugly. We've had premiers and chief ministers that are part of National Cabinet. They've signed up to the national agenda, the national agreement, the roadmap. They knew what they were signing up for. And we as a state have embraced it. because we've got to find a way forward. And yet now they continue to pull away from their commitment. And their commitment isn't just to their own citizens. Their commitment is to Australians. You're right. We'll be able to fly overseas before I'll be able to fly to Perth if you listen to the rhetoric from the Premier of Western Australia. I believe, and what we're seeing in Victoria, is a change and a shifting view by Daniel Andrews. He accepts that you can't contain Delta. It's clear that it doesn't matter how hard and the restrictions you put in place, you're not going to rein it back in. So there's another pathway. So I genuinely believe Victoria is coming on that journey. What will happen? I believe citizens in each of those other states will rise against those governments and put pressure on, because it's not just about protecting, it's about freedoms. And I think the tide will turn on those premiers that if they don't actually follow what they've agreed to.
Look, I think it's spot on. I was talking to some people in Melbourne today who say they live in Melbourne, obviously not New South Wales, but they watch the Sydney press conferences as a bit of a beacon of hope that if Sydney can get out, the rest of the country will be forced to go down the same path, hopefully in the same time frame. Well done today. It's a milestone, I think, in this pandemic. And as I said, we're all looking to Sydney for a bit of guidance and inspiration. Thank you, John Barilaro.
Thank you, Peter.